Okay, so I'm almost up to the last stitch here. I've come up the last side and I'm about 2 stitches away. So when I get up to the end here, I'm going to do a couple of stitches at the end and I'm going to finish up with a knit a knot again. So just 1 stitch and then a 2nd stitch there. I'll come in for a knit a knot. So again, I'll just go through that with you again. So we've got 1 thread at the front, 2 at the back. We'll take the thread at the front and take it under and to the back. The 2 at the back will come forward and under to the right, to the back, and pull it. We've got our little knot in there and it'll lock off. And when you cut your thread, just leave a little tail on there, don't cut it right back to the knot. And there we have our little flower. So as you can see, it's a little different to this one, so because we've cut it on the different pattern repeat. So now I'm going to show you how to get it onto our little mug rug here. So I have it here, I'm going to press it on both sides. So I make sure I get nice sharp curves around here because I'm going to pull the paper out before I actually applique it. So I'm just going to take it over to the iron here, give it a press on one side, give it a press on the other side. So we're just going to now, what I'm going to do is remove the papers from here. So I'm going to flick my fabric back away off my card. As you can see, I'm just flicking it. I'm going to pull it out just like a band-aid. And I'm going to work my way around here. Just pull the fabric back off the card until I get back in here, and I'm going to pull it out like a band-aid, and then that'll all sit back in flat. And just pull it back off the card, pull it back from the corner there. Again, sometimes you'll rip these little papers out, but that's okay. And that's probably because I might have used a little too much glue there, and that's what some of you will do, and that's what will happen. But most of the time you can reuse these papers. You'll just get the odd time where it's, and I'm not a gentle person when it comes to this. I just get it out. So you can see that you don't have to be very gentle with it. And again, pull it out there, pull it back. Okay, so now we have our little flower petals all done like that, and our seam allowance is turned over. And what I do now is I just go to the ironing board because I just want to make sure that is sitting flat. So I just take it over here and I just drag my iron in over those curved edges, just gently. You don't want to distort the curve at all. Just drag it in, and the pleats will all pleat up where they were originally when you had the paper in there. Drag it in like that, turn it over, and then you can pretty much iron it on the other side, and then your edges are going to be all nice and sharp. So it's going to be really easy to applique this down. It's a bit different too. I mean, we call it applique. It's not technically needle turn because we've already got the edges turned under, so it's really easy just to do an applique stitch around the outside. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our little hexagon. I can take it over here, give it a little press, make sure it's nice and flat, and turn your little flower petal, your little flower over. I'm going to take some Daley applique glue. I'm just going to put a little spot on my seams. Now you don't need terribly much of this. Don't get too heavy-handed with it. So you're just working with a tiny little spot. I'm not sure if you can see that very well, but it's a really small spot. Just don't get carried away. And just a little spot up in the very top so it holds those curves down for me. And I'm going to take it over to my ironing surface and pop it on here. And once you've centered it up, so just eyeball that and make sure it looks pleasing to the eye. And then I put the iron on it because I want it to stick straight away. I haven't got time to wait for glue to stick. It will stick on its own, but you know, as I always say, I'm hyperactive and I can't wait for glue to dry. So what we've got there is it's stuck on. And now we're going to applique around the outside edge. So I'm just going to take my needle and thread, pop a knot in the end. So I just do another quilter's knot with about 5 wraps. Okay. So I'm going to come up in behind, get that glue off my finger. I'm going to come up in behind into the seam allowance. I'm so I lose my knot in the seam allowance. So basically I'm going to do just like I would do normal needle turns. So for people who do applique, the best thing to do is to work from right to left. If you're right-handed, work from right to left across the top of your work. If you're left-handed, you would work from left to right across the top of your work. And the reason for that is it's much easier to work this way around your work as opposed to coming back and working this way. And that all makes sense when you're doing points and things like that, and you're doing leaves with like nice sharp points on them. It's much easier to do it this way than this way. And some people say to me, oh, I really don't like applique, and you know, it's as simple as they could be sewing in the wrong direction. So basically applique is, what I'm going to do is I'm coming out of the petal here, and my thread is coming out of the petal here, and I'm going to go straight down into my background fabric. So the thread's coming up out of the petal. I'm going to take my needle, I'm going to go straight down into the background fabric. I'm going to lean back a little bit on my petal. So when I say lean back, it's only slightly, but what I want to happen is when I lean back on the petal here with my needle, what I want is my needle to actually go down on an angle like this, and then we're going to come up on an angle like that. So the needle's going to go down, I'm going to lean back a little bit on my fabric, and then the needle's going to come up that way. So I'll just show you here what I mean. I'm going to go straight down, I'm going to lean back on my petal and come up on an angle. And we're just going to grab a little bite of fabric there, just a couple of threads on the edge of the petal. Straight down, lean back and up on an angle. And we're just going to sew all the way around the outside of this little flower. When you get into those little Y seam thing there, we're going to just keep coming around the edge. Okay, so it's real simple. Your edge is already turned under. You don't have to worry about turning it as you go. It's already done. Any loose little threads, just tuck them in with your needle. Your needle's nice and long, so you can actually make it work for you. And you can see how I get my thumb right up close to my seam edge there, right up to the very edge, and that holds everything in place so it doesn't move. So your needle and your thumb are the two most important things right now, is to make this work. Okay, so straight down and up on an angle until we get all the way around the outside edge there. Okay, and then we would end up with this. So that would be your mug rug. Okay, so we would make one of these for your mug rug. We're going to make one of these without an applique on for this little container. We'll make another one for this little container. We don't need to applique it. And then of course with your needle case, we need one of these for the front. And then on the inside, we're going to make two more, and we're going to make two little pockets to put in here. And the way you make these pockets is you just cut an extra small hexagon, fold it in half, and it actually just slides in. When you're folding the seam over, you just put it in there and you fold that seam over that half hexagon, and then it makes those little pockets for you. Okay? And then we just sew them together. So we'll sew 3 of these together. So what I do is I sew these 2 together here, and that makes the little pocket there that you can pop your scissors in. And then we sew this third one onto here. Now, the wool that goes in here that's going to take care of your needles in here, we're going to just take that piece of wool, and I'm going to take my hexagon. Now, we can cut the hexagon the same size as a small one, which we will do, and then we're going to just trim it back slightly so it sits inside, so it's not hanging over the edge here. So we'll cut it out with the template, and then I can just trim it up with my scissors, or I can cut it with my rotary cutter, but I'm just going to trim a little bit off. So I'll just show you what I mean. So I'm just going to, okay, rotary cutter, I'm just going to cut this here. Okay, now what we can do is just pick up the other template and lay it on here, so we can just trim a little bit off. So I'm going to trim about maybe, not a 1/4 inch, but maybe just about a 1/16 or a little more, but just try and trim the same amount off all the way around, and that way it's going to sit just inside the inside of your hexagon there, which you don't want it hanging out and looking untidy. So this is our 4th side. Just remember to count as you go around, because if you don't, you could keep going around, you'll end up with nothing. That's side number 5, and this is our 6th side. Okay. Just pop that needle in there, and what you would do is you can pop that on there. So you can actually you can pop a little bit of applique in behind there, applique glue in behind there to secure it down, or you can pin it, and then all you're going to do is do a little running stitch. So just take a needle and thread, some floss, some embroidery floss that I've got here, 2 strands of embroidery floss, and just do a little running stitch around the outside edge there just to hold it down. So there's nothing special about that. It'll just sit in there, and that'll keep your needles nice and neat in there. And also, you know, having the wool, it's beautiful putting your needles into the wool so it stops them from rusting because of the, you know, the lanolin in the wool. So that would be this front part of your needle case. So once you've got it all sewn together, and you do put your wool in, and then you're going to take your little magnetic clip. So your little magnetic clip is, they're really cute, they kind of look a little bit like a flower, so they're magnetic, you can put them together and they clip. All you do is you pop this onto where you need it, and then you just sew through those little scallop edges around there. You just do a few stitches in each one of those, and then make sure you line the other one up on the other side, and then of course they just close shut just like this. Okay, so now we've got that done, we'll move on over just to the little pin cushion. So basically the pin cushion isn't a quilt as you go hexagon, but it is a hexagon, so I just use my small template and I cut a back and I cut a front, and then I've made a little flower to go on the top of it. So I would cut this out, make my flower, and I would applique it on just like we did to the front of the needle case. And then I would put right sides together and I would sew it around. You can sew it around on the sewing machine, or you could hand stitch it, but basically around on the sewing machine, and leave a little gap in here, turn it right sides out, and then you can stuff it with some fibre fill. So stuff it nice and firm. Make sure when you're putting the stuffing in there, don't just try and jam a big lump of stuffing in there like we all want to do, because we want to get it done real fast. If you shred your stuffing and pull it into small pieces and put a little bit in at a time, you'll find that you'll get it back up into these points a little better, and you can just really poke it in. And sometimes the best way to poke that in really tight is maybe use a little, like a small paintbrush, like an artist paintbrush, but one with really strong bristles, and you can actually cut it in, maybe cut the bristles back off a little bit and poke it in, and it really makes it nice and firm and tight. Then we'll take our 2 buttons, and I would get some more of our embroidery floss, and I would use 6 strands of that, and I would thread it through a much thicker needle, maybe a chenille needle or something like that, and I would thread it through this way, and I put it through one button, through here, out the back, through this button, and back up through here, and I do a couple of stitches with that, and then I just knot it off. So you'll see here I've just got a little knot, you can see the edges there, and I pull it really tight so it pulls it in, so you get that little cushion, you know, that little cushion look of your pin cushion. So that's pretty much it for the whole collection. So when you've done all that, you end up with everything that matches. And how flash do you look when you go to Quilting Group next time and you've got all this stuff and everybody wants one? And you can show them how to do it, tell them to go and watch us, and we will teach them how to do it. Well, I hope you've enjoyed my tutorial today and that you'll come back again next time. But remember, if you want to see any more of my designs, quilt designs, small projects, anything like that, some of our new notions, what's happening around it in my world, then have a look at busyfingerspatchwork.com, and I'll see you next time.